Coach, so often in today's NBA, when teams hold their opponent under 100 points, they come out with the win. What did you see as the difference tonight, why your team was unable to do so?
That was a playoff game. The physicality, the small, tiny, little things matter in these games, because what turns out to be a 4-point differential in a game feels like 10 because of the amount of possessions that are being had. So every rebound matters, every foul matters, every little small possessions in a game like this, which was a playoff type game, matters. And we gave up 11 offensive rebounds, and those are the possessions that you can't get back. And those led to big threes, and those are momentum shifts. So in a game like this, the little things matter the most, and also a hungry team that came in here off of a loss yesterday.
How did you feel like your team handled that physicality tonight?
I think we handled the physicality fine. I really do. I don't think that it was a matter of that physicality, but it was the small pieces of finding a box out at the right time, getting out to shooters at the right time, and those were all momentum shifts. And give the Clippers credit. They did all those small things in that little stretch, that changed the game and opened the game up.
Just kind of on the other end, then what wasn't the offense able to do or execute tonight to kind of find those little plays?
Having to go back and look at the film without knowing, I think we got to some spots. I think we missed some wide open looks, some good looks. I think we had some inopportune turnovers at the wrong time down the stretch, and I think that's what led them to some easier buckets getting out in the open court, which is what we usually do. And tonight, that wasn't the case for us in this moment.
Kind of on that point, the nature of this game, it seemed like it was played in like a 3 or 4 possession window the entire time. Just what didn't allow your team to ever really get over the hump, especially in that second half?
I really think, if just off the top of my head, it was those moments where you give up 1 offensive rebound or 2 offensive rebounds in a possession, and that becomes deflating, and they hit a knockdown 3. Norman Powell hits that big 3 that gives that momentum up. James gets downhill, gets a foul. Those little moments are, like you said, in a 2 and 3 possession game, those are ones you cannot get back. And so our level of focus on rebounding the basketball, finishing out possessions, and being able to get out and run, which against a team that we know is very high level defensively, that they want to pack that paint in, and they don't want to let you get downhill.
The second quarter, you guys had, I think, only 3 points through the first 8 minutes, and we've seen this team go through lulls and kind of let go of the rope a little bit, but you guys kept them in range defensively, and then were able to kind of find that spark to end the quarter. What does that say about kind of the I know it's no moral victories, but what does that say about the kind of progress this team is making toward being the group that you want to be?
It's a lesson we have to learn. And you have to go through this type of game against a playoff type team and who they are in the West to understand exactly the value of each possession of the game. And like you just said, there was lulls. There's going to be lulls in games. And in a low possession game like this, every small possession matters. When you foul, when you're in the bonus, when they're in the bonus, box outs, rebounds, turnovers, all those little small things are heightened in a game like this.
First of all, what stood out to you tonight about the Clippers defense? And secondly, just taking a look at the bench, we know it's been, a little bit inconsistent as of late. What needs to change there in terms of getting more offensive production from the second unit?
Well, Clippers defense, T. Lue and Van Gundy, they've done a great job of, they swarm. As soon as you touch that paint, they're swarming in there. So our ability to make quick decisions as soon as that ball crosses the free throw line, essentially, because they're swarming from the backside, front side. Quick decisions are very necessary against a team like that. The second piece is behind the bench. Again, there was a stint where we did a very good job defensively, and then the shots just didn't fall. But that group, we've got to continue to play faster with pace. We should be the fresher team. They played last night. So, again, getting out early and in transition is going to be important for us as we move forward.
Sticking with the bench, I'm curious what went into starting Tristan in the fourth for a few minutes.
Yeah, I really think just finding space on the floor, opening up. They went to the small lineup. Zubac was out of the game. They went to Eubanks early, so that allowed us to play J.I. as well as Goga together. Then they went small, and they were switching everything, so allowing us to have more space on the floor, attack, get downhill, find shooters. Again, and we're finding guys, and we just got to continue to step in and knock shots down.
Coach, staying the course, just the meat grinder, continuing to play and win games and compete. as you move closer to the playoffs? Just talk a little bit about closing the year out and just continuing to compete.
That's you just said it. Yeah, I mean, you called it. That we've just got to continue to play the right way, continue to trend in the right direction. You hold a team to 96 points. You've got to be able to hang your hat on the defensive end of the floor. This is two and three defensive ranked teams going at each other. So it was a small margin for error. And that's what we've got to continue to do. So we learn from this. We've got to go play San Antonio tomorrow, and figure out our way through that one, and then bounce out to Washington. But it's one game at a time. Lick our wounds and go try to figure out a way to get San Antonio. Thank you, Coach Mosley. Thank you all.
Pete, so often in today's NBA, when a team holds their opponent under 100 points, they come out with the W. Why do you think your group came up just short tonight against this Clippers team?
Because they held us under 100, or held us under 90, actually. So I think we've had some games like that where our defense has been good. Just, wish our offense could have put up a couple more points.
We just spoke with Coach Mose. He said tonight felt like a playoff game throughout with the limited possessions and the defense and whatnot. Did it feel like that to you out there, or what was the sense of tonight's game?
I mean, from a physicality standpoint, or maybe it was just a slower paced game. I think that's just their style of play. They like to be methodical, call up matchups, and just try to expose you, kind of through hun like that.
Paolo, you and Franz are both ranked top 25 in points per paint touch in the league. How much of an emphasis and focus is it for you to penetrate the paint, get your feet into the paint before creating the shot for yourself or for the team?
Yeah, I think that's just where we're most effective is in the paint, and I think we have the ball in a lot of different spots. So just trying to bend the defense by getting 2 feet in the paint and making the read from there, whether it's finish or kick out.
Paolo, going back to the defenses tonight, the second and third ranked defenses, you mentioned both teams under 100 points. Just what about the Clippers defense made it so tough to score against tonight?
I think they just are really disciplined. They got a lot of experienced players who've been around for a long time, and they do a great job of communicating to each other on the court. And I think, they just do a good job of shrinking the floor, making it hard for your better players to, do the things they want to do. And they're good at, trying to, make others beat them. I think they, send some traps, just load it up on us.
Knowing that you're going to see defenses like that in the playoffs, what do you need to do or adjust to kind of crack defenses like that are able to kind of load up on you guys like that?
Honestly, I think a lot of their defense is their personnel. They got Kawhi, Chris Dunn, Zubac in the middle. So I think, their defense is pretty unique. And I think, they do a pretty good job of shutting down other teams' best players. But, in the playoffs, teams are going to do whatever it takes to, take me away, take Franz away. So just trying to find ways to get easier catches and easier spots, not having to work as hard. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make some tough shots and go through multiple defenders. No team's going to guard us one-on-one.
You guys have had some of those offensive lulls throughout the course of the season, and sometimes that's when teams started to race ahead. But tonight, I think you guys had only 3 points through the first 8 minutes of the second quarter, but you're able to finish that quarter. You're able to keep them close and then finish that quarter on a big run. I know there's no moral victories, but what does that say about kind of the progress that you guys are making toward kind of being a team that can survive those moments in those games?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you put it that way, it is something to look at as a positive, but I would rather just not give up the runs and not score for 9 minutes. I think, we put ourselves in a tough position when we do that. So when you go 8-9 minutes scoring 3 points, you're just putting yourself as a team in a tough position. So I'd rather not do that.
Paolo, as of late, you and Mosley have both talked about, continuing to push the pace and trying to play with a faster tempo, trying to get those quick, easy looks, but understanding that the playoffs, the game slows down, half-court defense is a lot more like you guys saw tonight. how do you guys find that balance between trying to push the pace, and still, attacking defenses in the half court?
Yeah, I think really it's just about, or what we mean when we say that is just taking the opportunities, the early opportunities, taking advantage of the early opportunities. Obviously, as the game goes on, it slows down, so you're not going to be able to just get out and run, throughout the game, all 4 quarters. It's going to slow down at some point. So that's something that, we just got to work on and, try and get ready for, because the playoffs, it is going to slow down.
Thanks, Pete. Oh, I'm sorry. One more, Jason?
You were named Player of the Week this morning. I know it's not a good question to ask after a loss, but I'm just curious what that meant to you, second time in your career.
Yeah, it was cool. Cool to get honored by the league. Thankful that we were able to go 3-1 in the week. And, yeah, sure.
Franz, you guys obviously put together a strong defensive performance, holding them under 100 points. But what was the reason you guys were unable to get the offensive going and come out with a win tonight?
I think part of it was, especially in the first half, I thought we got some good looks and just didn't make them. But also, obviously, they switched a ton. I think that stalled us out a little bit.
Earlier, Jamal mentioned that tonight's game, from a physicality standpoint, defense, low scoring, all that kind of stuff, it kind of felt like a playoff game. Just wondering if that was kind of the same assessment that you had and how you guys handled that.
Yeah, they, kind of like us, honestly. They want to blow a lot of stuff up and are really physical. And, I think in key moments today, they, got made some key shots, but also got some offensive rebounds, stuff like that. And I think that hurt us a lot.
Franz, you and Paolo are both top 25 in points per paint touch in the league. How much of a focus and priority is it for you to penetrate the paint first to help create a shot for yourself for the team? And how hard was it to do that tonight against Zubats down low in the packed paint?
Yeah, I think that's how we want to play as a team. And, that's part of our identity. Honestly, I don't think it's just Zubats. I think, they pack the paint. They make it hard to get to the paint. They swarm pretty much on every spin. A little different than most other teams. So I thought in some possessions, like I said, I thought we got good looks, but obviously a lot of possessions where, we probably should have moved the ball a little bit more.
Coach Mose talked about the small things impacting tonight's game a lot, the offensive rebounds, things like that. Just obviously every game is different, but why do you think at this point in the season the small things are still an issue at times?
Because we're not robots, That's why. Game 75 or whatever it is. Mistakes gonna happen, and that's no excuse. We need every game that we can win, but that would be my answer. I'm sure no one's trying to mess up out there on purpose.
Kind of building on that point, you guys kind of hit one of those offensive lulls in the second quarter. I think you guys had only 3 points through the first 8 minutes of that quarter, but you kept the Clippers in range. Finished the quarter on I think a 16-4 run. Made 6 consecutive shots. I know there's no moral victories, but is that sort of a line of progress in kind of finding some of that grit and determination that you guys need, or finding what you need to win these kinds of games?
Yeah, sure, but it was just a 4-minute stretch. I think we gotta, even if we don't make shots, find a way to have that energy for close to 48. Otherwise, it's really tough in this league.
Franz, you talk about, the Clippers' physicality and them packing the paint tonight, and rightfully so, but defensively, what they were able to do on the perimeter, swarming you guys, just, really pressing you guys all 94 feet, what stood out to you about their perimeter defense tonight?
I think their physicality, their switching, like I said, I mentioned them swarming the basketball, little in unique ways, I think, across the league, and not just letting us play one-on-one. Like I said, it's not just the big fella. I think guard play. Everybody sitting in the gap, making it hard to get to the paint. And like I said, I think that hurt us today a little bit.
Thank you, buddy.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.